Book 1, Chapter 8, Appearance of a Goddess. Proceeding on my way, I kept chanting the invocation to Amaterasu with single-hearted intent. Not so much in a single crow was in evidence. Heaven and earth seemed a solid sheet of frost. My limbs became stiff as boards from the piercing cold, and it seemed as if even my sighs would freeze on my lips. Once again I chanted, "Great Goddess Amaterasu, we leave all in your hands." And once again the power of those divine words proved effective, so that in no time I began to feel warm all over. My feet and hands felt as if I were in a hot bath. I had never understood the expression, "In hell you find God," until this predicament confronted me. Tears of thanksgiving poured down my face. With great difficulty I advanced on another 3 miles or so until I reached the cliff and had no choice but to try to retrace my steps. But then I found myself with a sharp spear only an inch or so from my person. Slipping on the icy ground, I had no recourse but to leave all in God's hands. Glancing to the right, I could see a deep mountain stream with a swift current of turbulent waters, in the midst of which some awful creature of a nature unknown to me had caught in his jaws one of the travelers who had fallen into the torrent. The monster would appear and then disappear in the waves while the traveler kept shrieking, "Save me! Save me!" Again I chanted the invocation, and the monster disappeared like a bubble. The name of the rescued was Funaki, and he volunteered to follow me. Now that I had a companion, I took heart somewhat, and we managed to stumble together another 2 or 3 miles along the precipice until our path disappeared completely and we came to a halt in consternation. At the same time, a loud voice burst upon our ears, crying, "Hurry up! Don't let them get away!" Abruptly the air was full of raucous sounds beating upon us without let-up. It would seem that hundreds of monsters with gaping jaws were converging upon us for an attack. We both were in the dire straits, and in our confusion knew not which way to turn. For no matter how earnestly I chanted the invocation, the creatures gave no ground and were rapidly closing the distance between us. I had been thinking of these dreadful entities as monsters, but strangely their faces changed into the faces of human beings. One of their number, acting as ringleader, bore down upon us with a long sword. Just when it seemed that I would be run through, the golden-skinned goddess in her white robe appeared again in an aura of light. "Wave the scarf!" she commanded, and disappeared in a flash. Snatching the scarf, that sacred treasure, from a fold in my kimono, I shook it at the monster, first up and down, then back and forth, in a gesture of exorcism. The monsters beat a hasty retreat to a safe distance. I hardly had time to experience my relief when a giant serpent with jaws open wide burst upon the scene and swallowed us both. We began to grope our way about the serpent's stomach, where my body, that had been suffering from the cold, began to feel warm all over, as if in a tub of hot water. Suddenly, there was a tremendous explosion, and I found myself falling endlessly into a bottomless pit. When I recovered my senses, it seemed to me that we were at the foot of a huge waterfall. Round about me stood tens of thousands of upright icicles. It would seem that we had tumbled head foremost over this cataract, and now, if I were to move an inch or even a fraction of an inch, my body would be impaled on one of those icy swords. I wanted to get up, but found that I could not. Looking around, I saw that the body of Funaki, my companion, had been pierced exactly as a fish on a cooking spit. He seemed to be in great agony. Gathering all my strength, I was barely able to produce the words, "Great Goddess Amaterasu," and divine virtue again worked its magic. In a twinkling, Mr. Funaki and I recovered ourselves, and the waterfall disappeared, leaving only endless fields of snow around us. Sticking out of the snow, parts of human hands, feet, and heads could be seen. Abruptly over our heads we heard the roar of an avalanche, sounding as if the whole mountain were collapsing, and huge masses of snow came cascading down, burying my whole body. I tried shaking the scarf, but there was no movement in my hand, which felt as if they were made of iron. Desperately I eked out the words, "We leave all in thy hands," and my body was released, so that again I could move freely. Looking about, I could see that Funaki was completely covered up, with only some of his hair showing. I waved the scarf several times above his head, and he appeared out of the snow wearing a rueful expression. From a corner of the heavens, the golden light reappeared and shone about us. The snow-blanketed area instantly disappeared, leaving only a sparsely weeded field, in the midst of which a great crowd of people were prostrating themselves before me, their faces beaming with happiness and gratitude at the appearance of their Savior. Many of them were expressing their hope to join with their Savior and take part in the divine activities of the 3,000 worlds. Among them were merchants, teachers, doctors, and scholars. The foregoing was the initial part of my water labors. Not again was I to have such an easy time of it. Whenever I recall the next 2 episodes of my disciplining, a chill runs up my spine.